This is a short video for working with prospecting maps within the New Zealand Cave and Karst project, ArcGIS Online. It's intended to be a brief introduction with some of the features that are available and the ideas we're working with. So starting at the home screen, you can go to Content to look for the map itself. In my case, as I'd actually created the map, it appears in My Content, but I think for most people you have to go to either My Group or My Organisation to find it. And there we have the prospecting map for the Waitomo area. The same applies for both the Wairoa and Puketiti areas at this stage. So once we've got to the map, a little bit of information about it, and then you can open it in the map viewer. The maps do take a little bit of time to load up, and you probably want to wait for all the layers to load up on the left hand side. You'll see basic data appearing, including the caves, entrances that are known, question marks and information marks, which either represent points of interest or suspected location of caves. The prospecting map itself is actually just a derivative of the main Waitomo or King Country Karst project map, with some of the layers removed and some of them added. The main one that's actually been added is this prospecting information layer, and allows you to add information to the map in a slightly different way to caves. It's intended more as a notebook for your prospecting activities, and allows you to annotate the map with information you've got. So zooming in, it has the same functionality as other maps that we've done in the series. You can start to see cave outlines appear. It's obviously moved through the topographic map and with the geology in the background, and now we're into aerial photos. And here are a couple of the points that you can see for our prospecting layer. So what we've done is we've added 3 different types of points. At this point, they're really so that we can differentiate them when we add them to other types of maps, maybe more public maps, or when users want to restrict information. So we've got public information, private information, and truly restricted information if for some reason you don't want to show anybody anything. As you can see, I put a couple of example points in here, and I'll show you how to add and edit these in a moment. The intention really for this type of data is, though, that if you've been away for a weekend, you can come back and use this as a visual notebook. You find a promising tomo in the bottom there, possibly has a small cave that's worth a bit of a worth of a dig, and into that you can then attach some sensible data. In this case, I decided it was going to be an ongoing dig and a kind of a private one, but other ones could be more public, and we will later show those on some of the more general area maps. Again, at this point, it's really an evolution to try and work out how different groups like yourselves will be using these types of maps, and we'll mend them as we go along. In terms of adding points and finding locations, there are a couple of different ways to do that. Firstly, if you want to actually find the location from your GPS, it is actually quite good. So here I've got a couple of points that in 2 different formats. The first one's just in decimal format from a GPS, and you can actually put them up into the box on the top right hand corner, paste it in. It just needs a comma between the 2, and obviously you need to make sure that you've got your minus for the southern hemisphere there correctly, and it will take you to the location. In this case, it's where we park for Junior. Similarly, it can also cope with the slightly longer format, which some GPSs also do. If we look back at that, here it's got all the points and commas in, and again it can cope with that format as well. So again, if we search on that, it will take you to the same location in this case. So an easy way to do that. Adding a point at this location is actually a little bit convoluted, and I'll come back to that in a moment, but you can at least see where it is exactly on the map. They're in WGS 84. So if I close that, zoom out a little bit, and we're going to add some points in. The display layers here, you've actually got a series of commands. Add is really for adding layers and other files to it. Really what you want to do is actually edit in the ArcGIS language, and we can see several different types of features we could add. At the moment we've still got it set so you could add new caves in fact to the layers as well, but adding a cave or adding prospecting information at this stage is the same basically. So if we want to add a private point to it, we'll decide we've found some interesting prospect over towards the end of Mudball and zoom in. It is really as simple as just clicking on the map and then a set of boxes come up. The label is simply the label that will appear on the map. The type at this stage is really quite generic. It's really up to you how you use it. You could use it as a tomo and small cave. You could put a shaft, you could put a sink, you could put whatever you want. The comments field is a lot longer, so you could put in the location was found on a given date or is on somebody's land. It really is what you want it to be, and again isn't really very restrictive. Create is useful to put your initials in. It does actually save the username behind it as well, but at this stage we've got a couple of different people using the same username in some cases, so it's kind of a useful field, but not compulsory. And then similarly you've got private, public or restricted. Again, something that will probably evolve. Slightly strangely, you don't actually save it at this point, you just don't delete it, you close the thing. It's not very intuitive, many people would expect to save, but simply closing it keeps it. And there you have your new point. At the moment I've set it that, and you can change it yourself, as you zoom out eventually the text disappears and you've simply got the points, and clicking on any one of those as you saw before will bring up the information. So again, as mentioned, it's really just a note-taking method at this point. And I think for the moment that's probably all we've got on this particular video. There'll be more later in the series on some slightly more advanced features for prospecting maps. Thanks again from the Cave and Cars project.